afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Jennie Montgomery. Welcome to another half hour of information to help you make the most of your time, to make informed decisions, and to keep up with goings-on around Greater Augusta. So, over the weekend, we celebrated a huge milestone. The 50th anniversary of the first moon landing was Saturday, July 20th. A local expert even told me that some of the astronomy people around the country actually want to make Moon Day a national holiday. And a lot of those astronomy folks and others who are fascinated with space exploration visited the Space Center in Alabama over the weekend. Our sister station in Huntsville, WZDX, shared this video. One giant leap for mankind. Man's first steps on the moon and Neil Armstrong's famous words were etched into history on July 20th, 1969. 50 years ago, with the work and bravery of many men and women, humankind accomplished the impossible. But the impact of the Apollo 11 flight can often be lost among younger generations who haven't known a time when human beings were bound to Earth alone.
Reliving that critical moment in the history of humankind, commemorating those brave souls that really did something incredible and managed to make it to the moon.
I think it's important for them to see the technologies, both of what the past and future is going to bring. It's pretty awesome to see where we've been and where we're going.
It broke down geographical barriers. It gave us the opportunity to see the world as a whole and for us humans to recognize that we are one people living on one planet.
The U.S. Space and Rocket Center is doing its part to keep the legacy of Apollo 11 alive, and so is the Ruth Patrick Science Education Center at USC-Aiken. Dr. Gary Senn is the director there, and we are so happy that you're with us today.
I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. I mean, as we said, Saturday was a really big day. It was the anniversary of 50 years since we've walked on the moon, and it was a huge challenge at the time that President Kennedy had issued to beat the Soviet Union.
Right. So we had already come off of being beaten by the Soviet Union. So they had the first object in space
that
with
was
Sputnik, right?
Okay.
And the first person in space with Yuri Gagarin. And so we were just wanting to find something that we could rally around so that we could get ahead of them in something. So the next big accomplishment that was out there was the moon. And it was a big undertaking. We did not have the technology. We could not do it at the time that Kennedy had made the announcement.
He made a really big speech, I think at Rice University, where he said, you know, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
And why the moon?
So because we already had something in space, we already had an animal in space, and all by the Russians, a person in space. Well, we followed them with a person in space as well. We wanted to do kind of something that was bigger. And the next best thing was the moon.
Landing on the moon.
Right, so we couldn't go to another planet beyond the moon. The moon was the closest thing to get to, and so that was the target.
Did it take a couple of days after the rocket was launched to get to the moon?
Yeah, so the 16th was launch day, and they didn't land until the 20th. So it took them a few days to get there, and then they were orbiting a little bit, and then they had to land. And then once they landed, it took a few hours to get things settled before they actually made that famous step on the moon.
Yes, yes. I think that astronauts have a different kind of bravery than anybody else on the planet.
Well, back then especially, because you know, it was new, and unfortunately not too long, Apollo 1 was a disaster where it burned, and we lost 3 astronauts there. So yes, it took a very special, brave person to do that. You're on an exploding rocket, essentially, and there's a lot of power there, and it's very dangerous potentially.
Well, which we have seen since,
have.
sadly. But the moon landing and all was extremely exciting.
It was.
I was a little girl, and I can remember, you know, my parents having us at the TV and watching all of that. Of course, you think about the impact and what it all means when you get much older.
Right.
I think it was interesting, though, in the clip that we saw, at Huntsville, they really want to keep it alive because, you know, so many people today, the kids today don't have any concept of us only being earthbound.
Right. So since, I don't know, most of the young folks, anybody in high school, there's been somebody in space every day that they've been alive.
Oh, what an interesting statistic. Right. Because we have the International Space
Exactly.
Station and different countries that are represented there.
Right.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, at the planetarium over in Aiken, you told me that you are redoing To the Moon and Beyond.
Right. So To the Moon and Beyond is a planetarium show that we did with our planetarium system some years ago, and we were delighted to have Mary Morrison be our narrator for that show.
Yeah.
So we got a new system a little over, well, about a year and a half ago, and that new system was not compatible with the show that was there, so we had to redo the show for our new system. So we completed that in June, and we've been showing
Ready to
it
go.
in July. Showed it last weekend for
for the big
Moon
events.
Day, we're calling it.
Well, you know, when you're speaking of Moon Day, I want to ask Morgan, our intern, to come out here. Morgan, can you come out here? We have a little surprise for you.
Oh, okay.
It's just a little surprise. We thought we might need a little snack during this interview. Morgan, thank you. So Morgan has picked up for us some of the
Oreo
special
Moon
edition
cookies.
Oreo Marshmallow Moon Oreos.
Those are wonderful.
You know, I'm going to take a little bite. Oh, it's blue. It's blue on the inside.
Okay,
The
look at
marshmallow
that.
blue.
Yeah.
Oh, that is different. Yeah, you definitely get the marshmallow. Good. Okay, so
Wow,
in
that
honor
was
of you,
special.
oh, and look, we have a little.
Yes, on
we
the
have
front
a rocket.
and the back. So
A
the normal
rocket.
cookie on one side, and then
the rocket.
A rocket there, beautiful.
Oh,
Oh,
what
they're
fun.
different. This one
Oh,
has.
whatever.
a
Show
moon.
yours. You've got
Okay,
the moon and the stars.
There we go.
And we also want to point out your fabulous moon tie.
Oh,
So
sure.
neat. Well, so tell me, you said that you have done, you had the big weekend. Can people still catch any of the events?
Yes, we have
Moon?
one more showing this coming Saturday for
Okay.
To the Moon and Beyond. We have some other shows that day as well. And then we have had a number of folks who've made, like gotten groups together and come for special showing. So that is available. If somebody wants to get together a group, we'll do a special show for them.
What's the phone number?
803-641-3654.
We'll have that for you. We'll have that on the screen so you can see it. You know, we are at just such an interesting time in our history, and there's so much still to learn. It seems like we learn things all the time about space, and space is so much bigger than we even thought. I remember recently the little Google thing where that black hole,
Right.
the big black hole that was discovered. What is it that keeps you so fascinated in all of this?
Well, the discovery piece is certainly fascinating. Now, you might be surprised to know that I was also around 50 years ago when the moon landing was. I know I don't look anywhere near
We were
that
both
old.
just little, but, you know, were we even potty trained?
Right.
You know, I mean, really.
So, you know, even back then, when Kennedy made that announcement, they didn't, like I said, they didn't have the technology for it. So just the things that they had to do, the computer systems that we have today on our phones are more powerful than what they had to get to the moon.
Unbelievable. I've heard that before.
Right.
That is unbelievable. What we carry around in their
Exactly.
phone.
And so what they were able to do with the level of technology that they had at the time, I think is just amazing. One thing that a lot of people don't know is when they were doing the landing, they were counting down and they were giving how many feet, and they were giving numbers. The numbers that they were giving was how many seconds of fuel they had left. And they were down to under 20 seconds of fuel before they actually
my
landed on the
gosh.
moon. So there's a spot in our show we actually talk about where Mission Control was very nervous because they couldn't find a good spot. They were kind of high, and they only had seconds of fuel left. And so they landed. Of course, the astronauts were just cool as cucumbers. You know, there's nothing to it. But the Mission Control people were really, really nervous about
bet.
them making
Oh
it.
my
So
gosh.
it was phenomenal. And then another thing that I like to point out is, you know, we talk about computers today. Back then, the computers were a group of women who did the mathematics
Great movie.
for that. So
Yes.
that's right. There was a movie about
There
that
was a
recently.
movie about them. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, Gary Senn, it's always so interesting to talk to you. Thank you for your time and joining us today.
My
And
pleasure.
I look forward to our next astronomical event to have you with us
I
again.
look forward to it.
Still ahead on Jennie, they are turning heads wherever they go, not just because of their vintage costumes, but their great community support. Georgia Pinups for a Cause after the break.